In today's video about how to become or book an extraordinary, outstanding, amazing, world-class keynote speaker, I'm going to share my tips about performance. And I mean performance as an artist, as an athlete, because a keynote speaker, when they are at the top of their game, is an elite performer, just like an NBA star or a Broadway star. And when I first started speaking, I didn't realize this. I just rocked up and did my best and in that moment and left. Now I know that for me to be absolutely on fire on stage, which is what the audience wants more than anything, and it's what the client wants without always knowing it in the pre-game, is to take responsibility and to own your own mind and your body well-being before, during, and then for your own health and well-being after the gig. And what I mean by that is developing your own protocol for your own elite performance, for you to get on stage and be your absolute best, present for the audience, a channel, if you like, of your genius, your energy, your aliveness that goes out to connect with that audience, in that room, in that theater or conference room or hotel. What do you need to be at your absolute best? So for example, some of the things that I need is I always come in the night before. I don't like having any form of stress, cortisol, adrenaline in my body coming in that day to try and hit a keynote. Now, occasionally that doesn't work if I've been booked for 2 days back to back. It's one of those things. But when I can control the environment for my elite performance, I come in the night before. I then have a set of rituals. I do not ever go and meet the client because that energy I use in social connection, which takes a lot of our energy and attention because social stuff is difficult, particularly people we don't know, fritters away the energy I'm going to have on stage. Same thing in the morning. I might meet the client, the big client, the C-level client, the head of the network or association for a quick coffee, a hello, a meet and greet, and then I leave them and I say, I'm going to go and prepare myself to be on stage. What else do I do? The night before, I come in, as soon as I get to the hotel, I lay out all my stuff that I need for the next day. My tech stuff, my clothing stuff, I iron or wrinkle my shirt. I choose my tie and my socks. That's one of my little things. I prepare the tech, make sure I've got all the widget stuff in a thing, the gifts I'm going to give my client or the audience, which is another tip I'll share, is I get all that done, and then I leave the hotel and try and get some daylight in whatever time zone I'm in. Often it's a different time zone, and I want to connect with that culture. I want to be of that place. I don't want to go just from ballroom to ballroom, from Marriott to Kempinski to whatever hotel, and not the feeling and flavor of the place. This is partly because I love to travel, and it brings my aliveness up when I connect with other cultures and other places. It's also to root myself, to tether myself in that location so that when I get on stage the next morning or the next afternoon, I am present there in that ballroom, on that stage, in that conference center, rather than somewhere between two different cities, kind of in the airplane. So that's very important to me. Then I have my bedtime ritual. And one of the things I say to all people about resilience, particularly performers, is sleep hygiene. Know what you need to go to sleep the same time, the same way, wherever you are in the world. So you get up the next morning feeling the best you can. The next morning I get up, I have my rituals, I get ready, I go downstairs to the breakfast usually, and I go through my slides one last time. This is not because I haven't prepared them, they're already super prepared and beautiful, but when I'm in that moment, I can usually see the audience members because they're often at the same hotel at breakfast, or some of them. I feel that moment, that day. There might be some interesting news, which I will literally screenshot and put into the presentation, so it feels so alive, so real. And then I will go off, get prepared, do the tech check, and be ready. And most importantly, I will spend the half an hour or so before going on stage in my own space, often away from the green room. I might go for a walk in the air, breathe, and I have my own little practice, which I do, which is I dedicate this keynote on this day to that audience so that it touches, moves, inspires, and makes a difference with whoever in that audience is ready to hear my ideas, my insights, and it goes off into their organization and their community, even their family, as best it can, without me getting in the way of that transmission. So that's what I do. I dedicate my keynote to the audience on that day, and I get on stage and I deliver. Now, I did mention I would talk about post-game care. Now, it's very common for a keynote speaker to pump it up, motivate, and then the second you leave the stage, you're on the airplane and you're dejected, you're tired, your adrenaline drops. And that's because you're running on adrenaline, not necessarily the right kinds of neurochemicals and neurococktails for you. And that's an anxiety-driven type of performance, which you find to have a little bit of that. If you're running on that, you will always have a post-peak dip, which doesn't feel good. The body doesn't feel good. You might not sleep well, etc. So I'm very aware to stay in my performance sweet spot, in my flow zone. A little bit of edge, performance edge, but mostly it's about passion and enthusiasm and inspiration. And then I don't have that post-performance drop. But what I do, as soon as I get home, from whichever part of the world I'm flying to and from, I then really take care of myself. I will often take a couple of hours the next morning to potter, to mooch around, to refresh, to rejuvenate, rather than go straight back into work, whether it's into my consulting work or keynote speaking. And that recovery time is so key for elite professionals. It's something we've only known from sports medicine and sports psychology in the last decade or so. The greatest sports people are not just those who train really well, it's those who give themselves good recovery time, really meaningful recovery time. And whether that means jumping into some ice, whether that means reading or watching a show or going for a walk with the dog, I tend to do all of those things. I then recover and I come to write that new keynote, to have that next briefing, to go back on the road again. And sometimes if you're doing 3 or 4, I think the most I've ever done is 4 keynotes in a week. You have to be at the peak of not just your performance, but your awareness of how to become and maintain and sustain elite performance as a keynote speaker. Don't forget to like, follow, share, comment, and ask me any questions about the art, the science, and the craft of extraordinary and outstanding keynote speaking.